He was lying in a hospital bed, tubes coming out of his chest, barely able to breathe, and the woman he had loved for 5 years, the woman he was about to propose to, looked him dead in the eyes and said, "I can't do this anymore, Lucas. I'm leaving." And then she just walked out, while he was literally fighting for his life. So let's go back to March 2023. He was 28, working as a software developer, making decent money, living in a nice apartment in downtown Seattle with Ava. They'd been together since college, 5 years total, the kind of relationship where they finished each other's sentences, where they had already picked out baby names, where her mom called him son. Ava was everything you'd want in a partner. Smart as hell, she was finishing her master's in psychology. Beautiful in that effortless way where she'd roll out of bed looking like she belonged in a magazine. And she was ambitious, man, always talking about opening her own therapy practice, helping people work through trauma. Life was good. Life was really, really good. And then one morning, Lucas woke up and he couldn't breathe. Gasping for air, chest on fire, room spinning, kind of can't breathe. Ava was shaking him awake, and he could see the panic in her eyes as she was calling 911. He tried to tell her he was okay, but he could barely get the words out. The paramedics arrived, and boom, he was on a stretcher, sirens blaring, Ava holding his hand in the back of the ambulance. She was crying, telling him everything was going to be fine, that she loved him. 20 minutes later, he was in the ER, and the doctor dropped the bomb. "You have a massive pulmonary embolism, multiple blood clots in both lungs. If you'd waited another hour to come in, you'd probably be dead." So there he was, 28 years old, supposedly healthy, and literally dying from blood clots that came out of nowhere. The doctors were pumping him full of blood thinners, talking about surgery, saying he was going to be in the hospital for at least 2 weeks. Ava was by his side that first day, holding his hand, talking to the doctors, calling his parents. She was being the perfect girlfriend during a crisis. But then day 2 happened. He woke up to Ava pacing around his room, and she had this look on her face like she was solving a math problem she couldn't figure out. She was on the phone with someone, whispering, and when she saw he was awake, she hung up real quick. "Who was that?" he asked. "Just work," she said, but she wouldn't look him in the eye. Day 3, she showed up late, said she had to handle some stuff at home. Day 4, she was only there for like an hour. Day 5, she was checking her phone every 30 seconds. And he was lying there, literally fighting for his life, watching the woman he loved slowly check out of their relationship in real time. But here's where it got really twisted. Day 7, exactly 1 week after he almost died, Ava sat down next to his bed, took a deep breath, and said, "Lucas, I need to be honest with you about something." His heart rate monitor started beeping faster because he could feel what was coming. "This is really hard for me," she continued. "Seeing you like this, dealing with all the medical stuff, not knowing if you're going to be okay, I don't think I'm strong enough to handle this." He stared at her, thinking she was having a moment of weakness, that she just needed reassurance. So he reached for her hand and said, "Ava, I'm going to be fine. The doctor said." But she pulled her hand away. "No, you don't understand. I can't do this. I can't be with someone who might have health problems. I can't live my life worried about whether you're going to have another blood clot, or whether you're going to need surgery, or whether I'm going to wake up one day and you'll be dead." The room went completely silent, except for the beeping of machines. "What are you saying?" he asked, even though he already knew. "I'm saying I'm leaving, Lucas. I'm moving out. I already found a place." And that's when it hit him. She'd been planning this all week. While he was lying there, scared and vulnerable, she was apartment hunting. "You're breaking up with me because I got sick? It's not that simple. No, it literally is that simple. I almost died, and instead of supporting me, you're abandoning me." She started crying, but not the kind of crying you do when you're heartbroken. The kind of crying you do when you feel guilty, but you're still going to do the terrible thing anyway. "I'm not built for this kind of stress," she said. "I need someone who's going to be healthy and stable." And then, and he'd never forget this moment, she stood up, grabbed her purse, and said, "I'll come get my stuff while you're still in the hospital. I think it's better if we don't see each other for a while." Just like that, 5 years gone. The woman who was supposed to be his forever couldn't handle 2 weeks of uncertainty. So there he was, alone in a hospital room, processing the fact that his girlfriend just dumped him because he had a medical emergency that was completely out of his control. But you know what? That moment, as devastating as it was, it lit something inside Lucas. Lying there in that hospital bed, he made himself a promise. He was going to get better, he was going to get stronger, and he was going to build a life so incredible that Ava would see exactly what she threw away. The next week in the hospital was rough, really rough. His parents flew in from Ohio, and watching his mom try not to cry every time she looked at him was heartbreaking. His friends came by, and he had to explain over and over that Ava wasn't coming back. But something weird happened during those long, boring hours staring at the ceiling. He started getting angry. Not just sad, angry. The kind of anger that burns clean and motivates you to prove everyone wrong. When he finally got discharged, he walked into his apartment, and it was like Ava had never existed. She'd taken everything, her clothes, her books, even the coffee maker they'd bought together. She left behind a note on the kitchen counter that said, "I'm sorry it ended this way. I hope you understand." He crumpled up that note and threw it in the trash. And then he got to work, rebuilding his life. First, he focused on his health. The doctors had him on blood thinners for 6 months, and he had to go to follow-up appointments twice a week. But instead of feeling sorry for himself, he used it as motivation. He started eating better, sleeping more, managing stress. He turned his near-death experience into a wake-up call about taking care of himself. Second, he threw himself into his career. Remember how he said he was making decent money? Well, decent wasn't good enough anymore. He started working on side projects, learning new programming languages, networking like crazy. Within 6 months, he'd landed a senior developer position at a tech startup. His salary doubled. Third, and this is where it got interesting, he started therapy. Yeah, the guy who got dumped by a psychology student started seeing a therapist. And Dr. Rodriguez helped him realize something important. Ava leaving wasn't about his health problems. It was about her character. When life got hard, she ran. That's who she was, and he dodged a bullet. By month 9, he was a different person. He'd moved into a sick apartment in Capitol Hill with a view of the city. He was making more money than he and Ava had ever made combined. He was in the best shape of his life, and he was dating again. Nothing serious, but he was putting himself out there. And then, month 12 hit, and everything changed. He got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Ava. Can we talk?" He stared at that message for about 30 seconds, and then he blocked the number. But Ava wasn't giving up that easily. 2 weeks later, she showed up at his office, just walked right into the lobby and told the receptionist she was there to see him. He came downstairs, and there she was, looking exactly the same, but somehow smaller. "Lucas," she said, and her voice was shaky, "I've been trying to reach you." "I know," he said. "That's why I blocked your number." They were standing in this busy lobby with people walking around them, and she looked like she was about to cry. "Can we go somewhere private? I need to talk to you." Against his better judgment, he agreed to coffee. They walked to this little cafe around the corner, and the whole time she was talking about how good he looked, how successful he seemed, how she'd heard he was doing well. They sat down, and she immediately started crying. "I made the biggest mistake of my life," she said. Leaving you was the worst thing I've ever done." He just sat there, sipping his coffee, waiting for her to finish. "I was scared," she continued. "I was young and stupid and scared, and I panicked. But I've spent every single day of the last 18 months regretting what I did." "Okay," he said. "That's it? Okay. What do you want me to say, Ava?" She leaned forward, grabbed his hand across the table. "I want you to say you'll give us another chance. I want you to say you still love me." And here's the thing. Part of him still did love her. You don't just turn off 5 years of feelings overnight. But he'd also spent 18 months learning to love himself more than he'd ever loved her. "Ava," he said, pulling his hand away, "do you know what happened to me after you left?" She shook her head. "I spent 2 weeks alone in that hospital. 2 weeks dealing with doctors and tests and medications while trying to process the fact that the person I loved most in the world had abandoned me when I needed her most." Her crying got harder. And then came the realization. If she could leave him when he was at his lowest, she was never really with him to begin with. "But I'm here now," she said. "I'm here and I'm telling you I was wrong. You're here now because I'm successful. You're here now because I look good and I'm making money and I seem happy. But where were you when I was broken?" She couldn't answer that. "I've changed," she said finally. "I'm not the same person who left you." "Neither am I," he told her. "And that's the problem." But here's where the story got really interesting. Over the next few weeks, Ava started showing up everywhere. His gym, her favorite restaurant, even at his friend Jake's birthday party. Apparently, she had stayed in touch with some of their mutual friends. And she wasn't just showing up. She was full court pressing this comeback tour. She was telling everyone who would listen how much she regretted leaving him, how she was just scared, how they were meant to be together. Some of his friends started giving him grief. "Dude, she's clearly sorry. People make mistakes. Don't you think you're being a little harsh?" And for a minute, he started to wonder if maybe he was. Maybe he should give her another chance. Maybe people really could change. So he agreed to dinner. They went to this nice Italian place downtown, and Ava brought her A game. She was dressed up, she was charming, she was telling him about her therapy practice that was finally taking off. She was everything he remembered falling in love with. And then she dropped the real bomb. "I have a confession," she said over dessert. "I didn't just leave because I was scared about your health." His stomach dropped. "There was someone else, another guy from my grad program. We'd been close for a while before you got sick." He could feel his face getting hot. "Nothing physical happened while we were together," she said quickly. "But emotionally, I was already checked out. When you got sick, it just gave me an excuse to leave without having to admit that I'd already fallen for someone else." The restaurant suddenly felt too loud, too bright. "So you left me in a hospital bed to be with another guy? It's not that simple. It literally is that simple." She started crying again. "But it didn't work out with him. He turned out to be a complete narcissist. And I realized that what we had was real, and I threw it away for nothing." And that's when it all clicked. Ava wasn't there because she realized she made a mistake. She was there because her rebound relationship had failed, and she wanted her backup plan back. He paid the check, stood up, and said, "Ava, I want you to listen to me very carefully. You didn't leave me because you were scared. You left me because you're selfish. And now that your other option didn't work out, you want to come back to what was safe and comfortable. That's not true." "It is true. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to go live your life, and I'm going to live mine. And we're never going to have a conversation like this again." He walked out of that restaurant, and he felt something he hadn't felt in 2 years. Complete and total closure. That was 8 months ago. Ava tried reaching out a few more times, text messages, emails, even showing up at his apartment building once. But he maintained complete radio silence. And you know what? His life had never been better. He got promoted to lead developer at his company. He bought a house in Fremont with a view of the mountains. He'd been dating this incredible woman named Sarah for 4 months. She was a nurse, and when he told her about his blood clot history, her response was, "Good thing you know the warning signs now." Last month, he heard through mutual friends that Ava was struggling. Her therapy practice wasn't doing well, she was having trouble paying rent, and she'd been asking people if they knew how he was doing. And honestly, he didn't feel bad for her, not even a little bit. Because here's what he learned from the whole experience. When someone shows you who they are in a crisis, believe them. Ava showed him that when things got tough, she ran. She showed him that her love was conditional on everything being perfect. But more importantly, losing Ava taught him something about himself. It taught him that he was stronger than he ever imagined. It taught him that he didn't need someone who was only going to be there for the good times. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't plotting or scheming or trying to hurt someone back. Sometimes, the best revenge is just living so well that when they try to come back into your life, you realize you don't have room for them anymore. Ava left him when he was at his lowest, and now that he was at his highest, he wouldn't let her back in if she begged, because he finally learned the difference between someone who loves you and someone who loves the idea of you. And that difference? It was everything. If you have a story you want to share, make sure to email it to me.